Hello Internet, I'm Epiphany, back again with another video. Today is going to be another fun one. I'm going to be building on two of my previous videos. One where I talked about pocket realms, and this, I'll link the video below, but basically this is the term I'm using for describing what happens when we let old memories, emotional memories, regrets over choices we've made or things that we've said, the more energy we give to thinking about those things, how it creates a sort of a swelling effect of this pocket realm, a place where we can go to relive those memories, or even, like I said, to play dollhouse in those memories. I'll link that video because it's a lot more comprehensive. So this is what I mean when I refer to as a pocket realm. It's a place in your mind. I also did one video already talking about alternate or parallel universes, you could say. Now, I didn't describe it as that in the video. This is where I was talking about other people's projections of us, though, and how versions of us in their imagination exist for them, and we become characters like extras cast in their story with them as the main character. The universe of story where they are the main character but we exist as another character is, in a sense, us existing in an alternate universe, right? And when I say alternate universe, I mean that it might not be the same way that we see ourselves, the way that this person sees us, right? So again, I'll link to that video, the projections video. And I wanted to sort of reclassify or rename that concept as us in an alternate universe because of what I want to talk about today, which is alternate timelines. Okay, so in my earlier videos that were talking about choices, right? When you're making a choice, and I like to use yes or no choices because they're very clear to follow, right? When you make a yes or no, or one or the other type of choice, whatever choice you make determines where you go next, right? Literally, you could take the example of, if I'm standing on a street corner, I have to either turn and walk right or I have to turn and walk left. And whichever way I choose to go is going to change where I end up, right? Now, in some cases, maybe I'm in a courtyard or it's a loop or, whatever, and I end up still at some point meeting back up, right? But in the meantime, if I have chose to go right, in the alternate timeline that is created in potentiality is what would have happened if what did I say, left? If I went left, then what would have happened if I had chose to go right? That becomes an alternate timeline. And so with each of these three things, I'll do a little review again. With the pocket realm, this is a place in our memory where we go, a place where we expend energy, thought energy, returning to the same place over and over again, usually, to replay a memory. Now, this gives me the image of Dumbledore's pensieve, right? If you're a Harry Potter fan, where he can take memories out of his own head or even of other people's minds, put them in this sort of bowl, and then you can stick your head in the bowl and kind of jump into like the pocket realm. That's the sort of the portal entrance. Now, you have no ability to change the memory, which I think is key. If you try to communicate with people in the memory, they don't see or hear you. And I think that that's what makes the pensieve a little bit better than the pocket realm that I'm describing, because in the pocket realm, it's only in your imagination. So you end up twisting or changing the way that a remembered event happened to suit your needs. So maybe, you think of that really good comeback to an argument in the shower the next day, and you go back to the pocket realm of that person you were arguing with, and you change the thing that you said. And not only that, but you change what their reaction would have been. And you change based on the change of your words and their reaction, then what changes next. And this can play out as far as you choose to play it out. It's in your own imagination. So compared to the pensieve, which could be useful because you're able to pull almost like a replay button instead, to take an actual memory exactly how it happened and maybe walk around and consider it in a different way, versus manipulating it in your mind to change your feelings about it. Now you feel better about this because you got the last say in the pocket realm, right? And the more enjoyable you make the pocket realm, the more likely you are to want to go and play in it. And the problem that this has, which I mentioned in the other video as well, is the more time you spend in the pocket realm, the less time you're spending living in your actual life. It's like Inception as well. If you get stuck in the pocket realm too long, you might forget what really happened. You can actually change your memories or change your feelings towards people, or you lose touch with what's going on actually in your life, right? Or you make choices, based on what scenarios you played out in your mind with other people's selves from your alternate universe, right? Where it's not really them, but it's your perception or your projections of them. And at the end of the day, you are the one in control of the pocket realm. You've created it. It's in your mind based on you going back to that memory. And that also means you can shut it off, right? I had a separate video about that as well on how to close a pocket realm. So if that's interesting, check that one out. Now, when we move to an alternate universe, this has to do with the way that other people see us or the way that we show up as characters in their story, right? So again, as we talked about before, this is something that we are aware of, right? I'm aware that every person I've met has an alternate reality self of me in their mind. And this is actually kind of cool and interesting. And, if you study, I don't know what you'd study, brain psychology or, studies they've done on memory recall and things like this. But they say that even in your dreams, let's say, every face that you see in your dream is apparently a face that you may have seen at some point in your real life, whether it be quickly flipping through a magazine or, hundreds of people milling about at a concert. Subconsciously, your brain has stored these images of these people, even if you had no interaction with them, and they can populate in your subconscious, even in your dreams. So what that means is as many people as there are that you've ever seen at all, as many people as there are in the world, let's say, that's how many alternate realities are potentially there where a projected version of you might exist within it. Now, some people will say that, you can send energy, transfer energy to people based on thinking about them a lot. I don't know if there's a way to prove that other than asking that other person. Let's say someone you haven't thought of in a long time pops into your mind. Does that mean that they were thinking of you too? I don't know. You'd have to ask them, right? And that's another interesting layer that you could put over top of it. But whether you're aware or whether you're able to receive or exchange energy in the alternate universe or not, you can at least be aware of the fact that not real, true versions of you, but created projected versions of you exist in all of these other universes. Now, those other universes, though, are not in our control like a pocket realm is. You can't just choose to change how people see you, right? Because that's in their mind and their story, and realizing that is really important, which is why I term these two things separately. Now, the third thing that I mentioned was the alternate timeline, right? And this is something that it exists, you could say, in the quantum realm, in the realm of possibilities, hypotheticals, in the what if world. And basically, anytime you make any choice, however many possible choices there were to have made, let's say choosing what color of shirt to wear, right? You've got the colors of the rainbow, and you've got the neutrals, and you've got the patterns, and whatever other things. As many choices as there are, that is equal to how many potential alternate timelines there were that stem from that decision. So if I chose a red sweater, in an alternate timeline, I could have chose a yellow one or a blue one or a green one or a patterned one or a beige one, right? And so when you start to think about alternate timelines, then what happens is, the right and left example was simple. If you choose to go right, this is how your life stems off from here. Again, it might meet back up. The only way to know that for sure, though, is if you had actually gone back in time and chose the other path, right? Simultaneously. I'm also thinking of the electron slit experiment where we understand this as a principle, but at the same time, it can only ever be kind of hypothetical, because you can never know how things might have gone if you had made a different choice. So this is the pocket realm's in our power. The alternate universes are in the power of those other people, and the quantum realm is in the power of God only knows, I could say, or universe or whatever, heaven only knows, right? Because there's just too many potential outcomes to quantify, and no way of knowing for sure which would have led where. Now, the way that the alternate timelines can function similarly to the pocket realm is you can start to realize, if you've been following me on my little journey here, starting with how you make decisions and how you feel about your decisions, and how you feel about them long term in reflection. At some point, when you realize that you would like to make decisions in a different way, such as prioritizing your own needs over the needs of other people, you become aware of the alternate timelines that you might not have been aware of up until that point. So, for example, if you only went to this university because your parents pushed you to go there, right? Only until you realize that you could have chosen what you wanted even if your parents weren't happy about it, that realization opens up your awareness to the alternate timeline of, what if I had gone away for school instead? And like a pocket realm, which is based in a memory that you return to, the alternate timeline can unfold with as much energy as you are willing or unawarely donating to that alternate timeline. So let's say you finally realize, I could have gone away to boarding school in the UK, let's say, instead of just going to the university in my town. How could that have changed my whole life? And you start to play it out, and it's all make believe. That's what's really key, is you say, maybe I made different friends, maybe I met a different partner, maybe I would have joined the circus, right? Maybe I would still be living there, maybe whatever it is. And depending on how pivotal this choice is, now this point here, the meeting point before you've made that choice, I call it a choice point. I know, super creative, but the more important the choice point, right? Do I marry this person? Yes or no? That's a bigger decision, obviously, than do I bring a lunch to work today? Yes or no? So those choice points that are so heavy weighted, because they carry such a potential chasm, you could say, between where those two paths might end up leading, those timelines are much, much harder to ever know the truth about, let's say. So let's go back to turning right and turning left. If I turn right and I realize after 5 minutes that I'm in the wrong direction, I can't always turn around and choose to go the other way. So not only can I fix that, you could say, mistake or whatever, but not only can I correct the situation, but now I also have confirmed that if I had made the other choice earlier, rather than going left, I went right from the beginning, then maybe I would not have been 5 minutes late for my hair appointment, right? So in those cases, you can find out what would have happened if you had chosen the other thing. But usually, the bigger the choice point, the more you wish you could know how it would have gone, but the less likely you are to know. And the Mirror of Erised, since I'm using Harry Potter references today, it kind of gives the Mirror of Erised, where you stand in front of the mirror and you see your heart's deepest desire. Now, again, the reason I like the artifact from Harry Potter a lot better than what I'm talking about is because the mirror seems to have some type of omniscience to read your truest, deepest desire in that moment, whether you are even consciously aware of that desire or not. And again, you cannot consciously manipulate what you see in the mirror. So, Harry sees his parents who have died and he finally gets to see them, but there's no way that he can show that to his friend, right? And there's no way that he can, change the way that he can interact with them. He just sees an image of what he really, really wishes he could see, right? It's more objective because it reads your true heart. Whereas when you are trying to imagine what might have happened, you're still seeing what you want to see. You're still creating an image of what you imagine or wish could have been the case, but it's less objective and therefore similar to that pocket realm again, because you can get lost in it, right? And you can become emotionally attached to it. So let's say another common example that I use is you think about an ex, and you realize that now, again, by reviewing the way that you make choices and so on, you realize, okay, maybe we can combine the ex with school. So let's say you chose not to go away for school because you wanted to stay with a high school boyfriend, right? And that relationship ends up ending. Now you go back to the thought of, this was why I chose not to go away to boarding school, right? And I'm not even with this person still. Now it causes this whole other thing where you might go back to imagining your relationship with them, or you might go on to imagine, or you might have like resentment again building up towards them, even if it was a long time ago or the breakup was mutual or whatever it is, right? Now you're suddenly holding them again accountable for a choice that you made that in hindsight didn't play out the way that you hoped, because your decision making was based on the boyfriend in the power seat versus what you wanted and what was best for yourself. And now you can start to imagine the school, and in an extreme case, let's say maybe you start to look up that school and look up the alumni and see who your friends could have been. And maybe there's this really other cute guy who would have been in your year, and now you can create this whole fantasy of a relationship with him. Maybe I would have met this guy and then it would have led me here and here. And as much time and energy as you are willing to play in the alternate timeline, the thing is that whatever you can imagine could exist, right? So it is possible that you would have met that guy in the way that you pictured, and whatever else you imagined in your timeline came true the way that you fantasize about it. But in most cases, your fantasy is only Doctor Strange's 1 in 300 million or whatever. And by creating a big story in the alternate timeline, now you are becoming sad that didn't happen. You're grieving something that never was, and you are maybe becoming resentful of your existing life. Now I'm only here because of this. You start to become maybe feeling depressed or disassociated from your present reality, because you are spending all this energy in the grief. And the thing is, I think all of this is just something that needs to be understood, right? None of this is meant to come across with any sort of judgment. And the only reason I have clever little terms for these thought concepts is because I've caught myself in doing all of these things, right? And being aware of that, and being aware of that it's normal, is helpful. And being aware that you could have made different choices in the past, it's very natural to think that an alternate timeline pops up in your mind, that you're going to play around in it for a little while, that you might even be right about some of the things that you can foresee would have been different on that timeline, and that accordingly you are going to feel a sense of loss or sadness or grief over that thing. Now, from my own experience, sometimes you do have to think those things to the ground, right? But not in the way where you live in the alternate timeline. You have to bring yourself back to the place that you are. And I will say one thing is that my son is always a really good grounding place for me, because ultimately, if it was my life story with the boarding school and all of that, but I was still here today with my son, looking back and saying, oh, I could have been in a relationship with so-and-so if I had chose this and that, right? All of those different choices probably would have unmade my son, right? If you think back to the future, right? That type of thing where a difference in choice can lead to someone who is really meaningful in your life today never having been in your life, right? So that works really well for me. Maybe someone else is really successful in your business and you know that you have only the choices you made to thank as stepping stones that got you to that point, right? And so if you're at a place where you're happy with something in your life that grounds you like that, that can help pull you back out of the alternate timelines as well. So find that thing that you're really grateful for about your current life. And every time you find yourself being sucked into the alternate timeline, just to, partly you have to acknowledge it. Wow, I didn't realize that, that guy liked me too. Or I didn't apply for that job because I didn't think I was qualified, but later the hiring manager says they would have given it to me if I had applied, right? Once you realize the opportunities you missed out on, you do have to say to yourself, that's a bummer that this could have gone differently. But take that again as a learning opportunity to remind yourself that you should be in the power seat, to be thoughtful about your decisions, especially when they're being made at a major choice point, and really make sure that the decision you make, whatever decision it is made in a way that will stand up to your scrutiny in the future, right? And so anyway, I just wanted to sort of start off by using by quantifying these terms, because I feel I'll probably be talking about the simulation theory and multiverse concepts and things like this. And so these terms are going to be really helpful. The pocket realms, the alternate universes, and the alternate timelines. I hope that was interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and check back in for future videos to see where these end up taking us. Thanks, and have a great day.